It finally happened. Tropico 7 got announced, and it is time for a video series I had planned for a long time, which is called The Road to Tropico 7. And in this episode, which is episode 0, we will not talk about the little details of all the gameplay mechanics, which I hope will change or will stay the same. This episode is about to get you up to speed, right? Give you a little bit of a recap on what actually happened to the Tropico series. And I know what you might be thinking. Wait, Mo, I mean, what was happening to the Tropico series? I mean, they just made some games and it's all fine, right? No, actually, the Tropico series has a very moved past, and it is time to talk a little bit about that, where we came from and where we are at right now. And then next week, we are continuing with the actual episode 1, and we talk about, well, I will tell you that at the end of the video. But let's talk about the history of Tropico. So it's really interesting because Tropico started out with the original developers. You don't need to know the name of the studio because they made 1 and 2, and then they got completely defunct, and that happened decades ago. So they don't even exist anymore at this point, and it's again, not really that important. What is important is that the publisher at the time, Calypso, was then taking up the IP, and they were looking for a new developer who could take over. And they found that developer in Hamian Games. And Hamian Games then developed Tropico 3, 4, and 5, which was their last game. And they made a lot of changes. You can definitely say that Hamian Games was basically the new developer of Tropico, right? They made so many changes that the previous games are now more or less their own thing. And even though they have the name Tropico on it, there is no too much similarities to what you are playing nowadays. And I would even go so far to say that even from Tropico 4 to Tropico 5, Hamian Games made some massive changes to, well, literally everything. So Tropico 5 then became the Tropico you have, well, played in Tropico 5, duh. And then, of course, in Tropico 6, even though that Tropico 6 is different in a lot of parts, it is still very much the essence of what you would call a modern Tropico game. But there is a problem, and the problem is that Hamian Games left after Tropico 5. They wanted to do their own games. By the way, they are all pretty good. They are all very different. Definitely check them out. But that's not really what this video is about. It's about Tropico. So Calypso, again, had a bit of a problem. They needed a new developer. And they found that for Tropico 6 in Olympic Studios. And you know this moment in your life when you hear something and something clicks in your brain. You don't know exactly what it is, but you just go, uh-oh, this rings a bell and a red flag. What is it? And you really try to remember what it was. So I Googled the studio back in the day, and I was like, oh, they were the developers of Heroes of Might and Magic 6 and Heroes of Might and Magic 7. And yeah, that was a massive red flag because those Heroes of Might and Magic titles were loathed by the home community, and a lot of people pretend that those games never existed in the first place. So they were now working on the new Tropico game, and my thought back in the day was, you know what? Let's blame it on Ubisoft. Let's see if maybe if they have like a different game in front of them, which is not turn-based, they would do better, yada, yada, yada. You know, a lot of cope here. And then Tropico 6 came out, and unfortunately, I was, well, wrong or right, depending on how you want to look at it, because Tropico 6 in itself was a decent game. It has massive issues, like the economy was completely broken. They had to completely retool and rework it over time, and a lot of the features were just dumbed down, and it didn't feel as good as Tropico 5. And I was like, all right, well, this will take a while till Olympic Studio is working on this and is fixing this, and they're gone. No, seriously, they more or less left immediately after the release, or they got kicked out. I don't really know what of the two things happened. Only the developers and Calypso can answer that, but they never gave an official answer, so they were gone. That's the important part. And now Calypso had a problem again. They needed a developer who was immediately starting to work on the game and is starting to patch and fix the game and also prepare DLCs. And they thankfully found a new studio, which was the developers of the Dungeon series. And I just want to say at this point, they did a banger job. Like, they really got in there and they listened to the community. They tried to fix as many of the integrate system as possible. And of course, a few of the gameplay things they could never fix. But nowadays, the game is in a good position. Like, the game is good. And even though personally I do like Tropico 5 still more than I like 6, I would still recommend the game for what it is. So they fixed it, especially with the DLCs. It's much more fun at this point, and that's good, but unfortunately, that also led to a very reoccurring problem. Calypso needed a new developer because, well, the creators of the Dungeon series had their own games they were working on, and that was not really their thing, right? They just jumped in here to help out, but they were not the main developers. And this time, Calypso did something I think a lot of the fans of Tropico have not seen coming. And they announced a few years ago that, hey folks, we are working on a new Tropico games. And with we mean we internally and maybe you, because we open up a new studio and we need people who will now work on Tropico 7. That was about 3 years ago, give or take, right? And so they have been hammering away on the game, but if you think this was smooth sailing since then, you're wrong, because about 1.5 years ago, or 1.5 years into development, they basically announced that they have completely removed the leadership of the new studio, and they were looking for new people. Now, that's of course not great, but they basically said that, yeah, we were not really happy in which direction Tropico 7 was developing. And, well, the only way forward was to remove the people who made those decisions, and now we are looking for new ones. The good news here is that this happened very, very early in development. Like 1.5 years is still very early on in the development process of the game. And that means that a lot of changes still can be made. And it's not like Tropico 6, right? When the game was out and then they realized, oh boy, we have to make quite a bit of changes here. So they thankfully realized it early and they made the changes. And now, 3 years after the first official announcement, or well, close to 3 years, we had now the first trailer, we got the first screenshots, we got the first information, and we know that Tropico 7 is coming next year. And I'm really looking forward to that. And that's why I'm also making this series. Like, we will have a video every week, not leading up to the release, that would be too many videos, but there is like multiple topics I want to talk about. And the first episode will be, well, it's the economy, stupid. That's right. We have to talk about the economy, how it worked in Tropico 5, how it worked in Tropico 6, and what I'm hoping to see in Tropico 7, because the economy was one of the things which changed sometimes dramatically depending on the game. And I think it's always a big discussion in the community which importance the economy should have in those games. But again, we will talk about that next week. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking forward to more, please leave a like if you can. And also, of course, subscribe to the channel so that you're not missing out. But with that said, we are not just focusing here on Tropico on the channel, but also other strategy games, management and building games. So if you like that, definitely consider to subscribe. With that said, thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I hope I see you next time.